वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मणिस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहसीः अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om. May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. May there be perfect correspondence between my thoughts, words, and actions. O self-effulgent Lord, be revealed in my consciousness. May the truths proclaimed by the scriptures come in my life. May what I learn from them never ever forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om. Peace. 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 Let us feel the center of our consciousness. Which is unchanging in the midst of all the changes in body and mind. It is the source of bliss and eternal peace. Let us concentrate on it in the form of a steadily burning candle flame. All the changing appearances like the objects outside the body, the mind. I see all getting merged in this brilliant, self-luminous flame of pure consciousness. That is the goal. Om. Peace, peace, peace. So, friends, we shall continue today's study of this special blessed book, Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, with our usual chant. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham shravanamangalam Srimadattatam bhuvi grananti te bhurida janaha. Let us remember that this section of the biography, which is called Sri Ramakrishna, as teacher, in the act of teacher, we have already seen that the life of the incarnation of God is for teaching humanity. God appears as a human being to teach humanity. That is the purpose, and as Sri Ramakrishna himself said, showing to his own person, his own body, that every action here is for the purpose of teaching. As an example, when you see, then by watching you learn how to do it yourself. Like many mechanics these days use YouTube video. Somebody has done it before. How to change the battery in a particular cell phone. So they Google and find a YouTube video of this. Somebody has done it and posted a video. So watching them, they also learn how to do it. How to change, say, a particular component in a pump. Okay, there is a video, they see and do it. So that is how human beings learn, by looking at the demonstration. It is not only monkeys, that monkeys see, monkeys do. It is human beings see and human beings do. And we are, after all, evolution of monkeys. So, thus Sri Ramakrishna presented this demonstration in human body to show the world that you are also divine. Wake up to your divinity instead of languishing in the awareness that I am this body. By that you become imperfect, you become devoid of peace, you become little, you become thus full of suffering. The only way to get rid of this suffering is to wake up to this truth that I am divine. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna showed. Looking at Sri Ramakrishna, we learn it. So that is the teachership. It is not that Sri Ramakrishna held classes like we are having a class, and not that Sri Ramakrishna sent out flyers. Hey, this is a lecture going on today on this topic. Swami so and so will be giving a talk. Please, you all join. So, he didn't do any of those things. There was no separate I as such. It is very difficult to comprehend, even in the slightest amount, this idea that there is a person and yet there is no ego to be found there. So, Sri Ramakrishna taught like that, and thus people learned. This particular chapter that we have been studying is about how Sri Ramakrishna got known as incarnation of God by a person, a lady who was his teacher. She was his teacher, Bhairavi Brahmani. She taught Sri Ramakrishna all the methods of practice, spiritual practice, according to what is called Vaishnavacharan. So, a Tantra practice that is taken up by the people devoted to Lord Krishna. So, that was all taught by Bhairavi Brahmani, and Sri Ramakrishna practiced all those 64 types of tantras under her guidance. But before that, she saw that Sri Ramakrishna is incarnation of God. Sri Ramakrishna was having various those bodily symptoms, and common people treated them as signs of pathology, a disease. And so they were treating Sri Ramakrishna under a doctor or various doctors. So, but Bhairavi, she said, no, this is the state of what is called Mahabhava. Mahabhava is literally translated, it would mean a great mood, a very heightened spiritual consciousness, and it will have an effect on body. So she said ordinarily human beings, even highly elevated in their spiritual practice, or even those who have realized this, will not have these signs which are specific only to the incarnations of God. And then she said to Mathur, the owner of this temple garden, that call the scholars and the practitioners of these disciplines, and in their meeting I can prove that Sri Ramakrishna is an incarnation of God. We saw in some previous classes how Vaishnavacharan, a greatly renowned scholar and leader of a sect that used to practice according to the Vaishnava disciplines, he came and his others came there, and then he agreed immediately that yes, Sri Ramakrishna is the incarnation of God. He said, I fully agree with this Bhairavi's assertion. No need for any debate, since both agree to this premise that yes, Sri Ramakrishna is the incarnation of God. And then there was a discussion on a form of practice which is considered abominable, rightly so, because it takes up many not so respected ways of living, and through that people try to advance in the spiritual path. Sri Ramakrishna decreed these paths that they are not good. But he also agreed that a few of them could succeed by following those disciplines as well. And then there ensued a discussion on this path. Let me read a little bit from where we actually left last time. I'll read the paragraph on page 557. This part we have read, but I am reading again. Is it easy for the human mind, so full of worldly desires, to move towards the path of renunciation? A question, that we should ask ourselves, that for a human mind so much affected by the worldly desires, how to give up them? It is that giving up happens like one friend of mine. I was telling him that, give up this habit of smoking. It is spoiling your lungs, and then you are spending so much money into just burning your own lungs. Why? Give it up. He said, yes, I give up. Just yesterday I had given up. Today I took it up again. Once a day I give it up. So that kind of giving up, is it giving up? It is not giving up. So human beings, when they get the enjoyment and then they get the bad effects of it in their life, they say that enough, I am going to give it up. But then the mind, habituated to those things, revert back to it. You eat some delicacies in a restaurant, and then you feel, wow. But then you have to pay the bill, You look at the bill, oh, enough, too much. I am not going to do this. And again the food is going to trouble my stomach. I am not going there. But then again, the desires overtake, and one keeps on doing the same thing. And therefore, this is the question, and that we all want to be spiritually illumined. We all understand very much that the worldly desires are a big obstacle in that. Just by wishes, can we just throw them out? No. They say that if wishes were the horses, the beggars would have been the best riders. So it is, wishes will be plenty. Let me get rid of all desires. That idea comes. Does it come to you, Sam, sometimes? Let me get rid of all desires. But then they come back again. So we wonder what is actually the way we want but can't. That is a stage that human beings get caught into. We want but we can't. Can a person call on God without any motive and with sincerity proceed to attain God? In the pursuit of a pure life, one willfully keeps some impure desires even after renouncing lust and gold. A person loves to have a little taste of them. The books of worship enjoin worshipping the Divine Mother with austerity and purity of heart. But there are some people who prescribe singing a few lustful songs for her satisfaction. One should not wonder at this or condemn it. It proves that weak human beings are strongly bound with the chain of lust and gold by the all-powerful Mahamaya, ruler of myriad universes. It is impossible for human beings to attain liberation if she is not merciful and removes that bondage. It is beyond human ability to comprehend how she helps each individual to move forward towards liberation along a particular path. When we closely study our inner lives and compare our own with the Master's mystical life, Master means Sri Ramakrishna, it becomes evident that he was a unique and divine supreme being, prompted by his divine will, or perhaps by compassion for us. He lived in this sordid world, apparently humbler than the humblest, but in the realm of wisdom he was a king of kings. That is how, he lived amongst us, because otherwise we will not see the example. So he was actually the emperor of, as Swami Vivekananda calls him, the emperor in the mood, in the empire of spiritual moods. So he was having that constant experience of divinity. He was staying in that realm. We have seen in details over about a year ago or so, or more than that, as we began the study of this book. We were mostly concentrating first on Sri Ramakrishna's that state called Bhavamukha. So, in this state of Bhavamukha, where he could be connected to the supreme divine awareness, where there are no names, forms, no divisions. It is just congealed oneness. And on the other hand, he was seeing the world of multiplicity fraught with so many, types of bondages and sufferings of human beings. All are together. It is so at this line where the two worlds kind of merge, he was standing and was thus able to give the lessons to others. That is a unique thing, friends. And the more one thinks of it, it is you can see the astonishing wonder of all this phenomena. So, what Sri Ramakrishna has done is being elaborated here, that okay, people in this world, they want both some enjoyment and some spiritual wisdom. So, just pure spiritual wisdom will be difficult to fathom, difficult to hold on to for most of us. And so, what is done? Take some enjoyment. It is some medicine given to babies. Then that an intense, strong dose becomes difficult for babies to swallow and may not be very good for them. They cannot tolerate that. And so you dilute it. So there is some medicine and some water put together. Take it. Even some nutritious milk, whole milk, 100% fat, will not be digestible for children. So they bring some 2% fat or 1% fat and then feed them. So that kind of diluted spiritual life is conducive to most of us. But there should be properly that milk in that. Milk only in the name will not do. You drink water and call it milk, that won't do. It will have, say, 50% milk and 50% water. That's okay. Means to begin with, till your system gets attuned to digestion of milk. But if you just have water and milk only in the name, then it is very difficult. You will never get attuned to milk by that. So that is the practice given in Tantras. So Swami Saradananda is giving a detailed description of how it emerged. In the Vedic period, yoga and bhoga, we saw bhoga means the tendency to enjoy the world, and yoga means to get united with our true inner spirit, the source of all bliss. So these two were there, blended in the sacrificial and ritualistic portion of the Vedas. The goal of human life was to enjoy sense objects legitimately through worship of the deities by performing. This is about the Vedic period, not that it is applicable. The principle may be applicable now, but that method is no more in vogue, in use. So So the idea was you enjoy, but perform certain sacrifices, perform worships, and then offer that very nice food that you want to eat to God, and then partake of it as blessed food given to us by God. So remember God in all things that we do. This was the way prescribed, and so there were two clear-cut divisions you find in Vedas. One is called Karma Kanda, the action portion. That okay, you have desires, perform actions to fulfill those desires. There would be prescriptions to properly perform them, so that there would be some connection with the God to maintain. But as you go forward in this, you come to a point that, oh, after all, whatever I get by this is perishable. Not only that, there is really no pleasure in it. It is just appearance of pleasure. So you develop a strong detest for it. You don't want it anymore. That is called vairagya or dispassion. You see that that is the cause of your suffering. It is just as it is actually felt, friends, that just as a person holding, say, a hot iron ball, that is the making my hand and the body burn, would drop it. I don't want to hold it. It is kind of punishment. Yeah, sometimes it is used as a method of torture. That put the forcibly that person's hand is made to stay on a burning hot plate. Now, I don't want it. Let me get out of it. So this feeling comes when one gets such terrible blows from the world while going headlong into enjoyments. That enjoyments, you go and then you see you are being fried and roasted. This morning we were discussing that Dante's Inferno. That Dante's Inferno is something like that. This world, we go to get something, and well, there is this inferno that we get roasted into. So when one sees that, one wants to get out of this. And then the second part of the Vedas now come to their help, that is called the Upanishads, which is the knowledge part. First was the action part, then the knowledge part. In that knowledge part, therefore, they understand the nature of truth, the nature of who they are, and why they are not getting any satisfaction by running after the various desires in the world. Impossible, because the joy is here within us. And if we are running to objects to get it, then we are running away from the source of joy. And naturally, you will not get it by running away from it. It is so. Do you get it, Naomi? Yeah. If you want joy, you have to go to the source of joy. But what happens is we look at their reflections in the mirror, and then, oh, it is there that what I want. So you go towards it. But the object this is a little physics, that the object is in the opposite direction of the reflection. So now you are going in the opposite direction, you won't get the thing. You have to reverse. And that is where the Upanishads become useful. Now that person is ready to listen to Upanishads. Earlier, before that, howsoever you may tell, the person will not go to hear it at all. It is the mad desires for enjoyment, and then the energy of these youthfulness or madness, whatever, both can sometimes become together. So the youthfulness may go away, but that doesn't mean madness goes away. So in a mad rush, you go to have that enjoyment. I gave that example a few times. I used to see that and feel pity for that little bird, that sparrow. In India, they get into your rooms through the open windows. They Here you hardly see it in America, but in India that is common. The birds would come into your home, move around, they would be chirping, and then one thing used to be quite painful for me to watch. There were mirrors in the houses. You have mirrors, and then the poor bird would go and hit that mirror, because it would see another bird there, thinking that that's some other bird, let me meet that bird. So would go and hit the glass. Maybe if you must have had its body, beak specially, get wounded by that. So it is hurt at least. So that is what happens to us, like that bird, that silly bird. We call that bird silly. We are more silly to go to the reflections of this enjoyment. The joy is here. When you go out, you are rushing in the wrong direction towards the reflection and get yourself hurt. So this wisdom comes only after some experience. Till then we are not ready to listen to the words of the sages. So when that wisdom comes, and then the person is ready to listen, oh, I'm feeling so hurt in this world, so much bound, so many problems. I want to know the truth. How can I get it? And thus that person approaches, as beautifully exemplified in that verse in Mundak Upanishad, that pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayat. By examining all what you get by this mad pursuit of the world, you see, what did you get for last say 25 years, 30 years, 40 years? You were rushing to get it. Examine what you got. You may have been able to build a big mansion for yourself. What is it? A big prison. You understand that it is just a big prison. What have I got really? But pain, suffering, restlessness, all that is I got. No, I don't want it anymore. Brahmano nirvedamayat. So that person who introspects carefully what is the cause of this suffering, sees that this world, my attachment, my rushing towards it is the problem. And so, after understanding this, the person goes to a teacher to learn. And then that learning becomes effective, that the knowledge of the true self and how to get it in life. So, this is by performing those Vedic rituals, the worshipper's minds would become desireless to some extent, and they would become blessed as they worshipped God with pure devotion as mentioned or recommended in the Upanishads. But the tradition took a different turn during the Buddhist period. The pure spiritual disciplines that were meant for desireless forest dwelling monastics were indiscriminately taught to worldly householders. The government supported the Buddhist monks in that effort. Consequently, Vedic rituals and sacrifices, which were meant to gradually direct people to renunciation through enjoyment, were suppressed. But those rituals appeared surreptitiously in the form of secret tantric sadhanas practiced in the dead of the night in lonely and frightening cremation grounds. According to Tantra, the great yogi Shiva noticed that the Vedic rituals were flagging, so he revitalized them and revealed them in a different form as the Tantras. That is how these all Tantras are mostly the products of the decline of the teachings of Buddha. That is what happens, it is the degradation happens when the very high levels of practice are given for the low levels, and thus they cannot do it, and so they cannot evolve. It is, you can't give a baby those dumbbells. I saw at one home, there is dumbbells, and each was weighing 30 pounds, two of them. Oh, I saw, wow, who does that? And that man said, nobody does that. These 30 pounds, 30 or 60 pounds, we are not that strong. So we had it been 5 pounds or 10 pounds, we would have tried. But 30 pounds, our muscles will just break. It is so many problems could come lifting these 30, 60 pounds like that. No, not for us. So when you take away the smaller weights and put the big ones only, it becomes impossible. In Buddhist time, therefore, in the degradation of that, Buddha's teachings were just converted into these things that give up this world. Well, good, but then how to give it up? We are so attached to it. There has to be a graded course for that. One has to go to the ants, little ant steps, baby steps, or even the baby ant steps, let us put it like that, slowly, gradually. There has to be patience. And then we get there. In Raja Yoga, Swami Vivekananda has told this very nice story about how a minister of king, and the king got displeased with this minister because the minister gave him some advice, which was good and sane advice, but the king didn't like it, and so he said this minister be imprisoned on a tower, a high tower, and he was locked there on the top. There was no way to climb down except through those stairs which were locked. So the idea was you don't need to keep a watch on that fellow. If he tries to climb down, he will have to jump and he will meet his death. So, a good riddance. But this minister was a very clever man. That is why he was the minister of the king. So, his wife came to see him. He said, okay, get these 4 things for me. What? 1 honey bee, a little honey, and a fine silken thread of very good length, and then an ordinary this thread, twine thread, and then the 4th thing was a rope. She said, why, what are these all 4 things? So just do what I tell you, and just get those things. And that lady brought these things. And this minister told, okay, tie that silken thread to that bee, and put a little honey on the horns of that bee, and then leave it on the wall of the tower. Now, getting the smell of the honey, that bee went on climbing along with the silk thread, a very light silk thread. Now, as the bee reached there on the top like this, the minister took that bee and the silken thread and told the wife, now tie a stronger thread to that the end of this. And she did that. Then with that silken thread he pulled the strong thick thread. And then he said, now to this thread tie the rope. And with that thread he pulled the rope also. And then with that rope he escaped. So came down from that tower and escaped. So if instead of tying that silken thread, if had that wife tied the rope itself to the bee, you can imagine the bee wouldn't be able to move at all. So that is what happens. You have to go in a gradual way. Gradually one should progress. That is the idea. It doesn't matter if it takes time. Even if it takes time, at least you will be reaching there. If you try to take shortcuts, they may not work at all. In our region there, that when I used to be in Shillong, all the hilly tracks and all the hairpin bends on the roads, driving had to be done quite carefully. And there were signs, very nice signs, I still remember. One was these shortcuts will cut you short. These shortcuts will cut you short. Another sign was, better to be Mr. Late than late Mr. So it is, yeah, go by a proper graded course, have patience. Patience is therefore a very important quality in practical spiritual life. And we become impatient, want the result immediately. No, that doesn't happen. Have patience. Therefore, there are these stories that how they practiced for 32 years, even before they were allowed to ask a question. And now we not only want to ask question immediately, want to have the answer immediately. Oh, wait, wait till the time is ripe for it. It is after you sow the seed, give some time for the tree to become a little plant and grow, and then you want the fruits immediately. Oh, I put the apple seed at yesterday and today I want apples. Oh, only in dream that could happen. It is, you have to give time, the proper process has to happen, then you will surely get it. So this is what is the wrong application of the message of Buddha did this to society. And therefore when the legitimate means for this steady graded growth on the spiritual path was not available, people took these practices. And these practices in themselves, they are efficacious, but they are dangerous also, because it is a combination of enjoyment and the spiritual awareness. Both are kind of combined, and if the mind is not honest, then one, as I mentioned, the spirituality remains only in the name. What goes on is the only sense enjoyment. It is, there is nothing like spirituality in that. It is like in Banana Republic. Banana is just the name, you don't get bananas there. You buy clothing or such things, it is not banana. So these are deceptive names. It is only in the names. When I came to US, I saw that it is some depression time somewhere. So it is houses for peanuts. Do you sell houses for peanuts, Sam? It is, but the science, sir, peanuts means no money. Peanut is in the name, not that you have to carry some peanuts. Hey, these peanuts, give me the house. No. So these things remain only in the name. So therefore, one has to be very sincere about it in practicing these things and move on a graded course. So this is, he says, for example, when you sit to perform tantric worship, you must first rouse the kundalini to the sahasrara in the crown of the head, and then think of yourself as being completely united with God. Then you must consider that you have become a jiva separate from God, and that the divine light has become condensed and manifest as a deity to be worshipped. Many of the meditation methods taught in Ramakrishna mission they are of this type, tantric. So it is, although these are not the tantra that was practiced then, but very purified, harmless ways of doing this. So this form of worship shows a wonderful method of becoming one with God in love, which is the goal of human life. Of course, perhaps only one advanced soul among 1,000 can perform this worship properly. But when everyone makes an effort to do this, they certainly get some benefit and thus slowly make progress in spiritual life. Every tantric ritual is connected with non-dual knowledge. Non-dual knowledge, that is important, friends. That actually, that awareness that I am actually divine. That awareness of the intrinsic divinity is a must. That there should be a faith, knowledge in the sense that a rational understanding and faith in that must be there, that I am divine, but I have to realize it. And that is what Swami Vivekananda means by each soul is potentially divine. Means you are divine, but that divinity is to be not just intellectually thought of, but has to be experienced in life. So that process by which the latent or potential divinity becomes manifest in one's life, that is called sadhana or spiritual practice. So every tantric ritual is connected with non-dual knowledge, thus reminding the spiritual aspirant of their ultimate goal herein. Herein lies the uniqueness of tantric rituals as distinguished from Vedic rituals, and for this reason tantric sadhana has had a tremendous impact on the masses of India. This discussion will continue a little more. Another innovation of Tantra, we will take it up in our next Tuesday's class, because today's time is getting over and it needs to be studied with a little more attention. But the idea that is mentioned here, gradually the human mind, it went more into enjoyment and less into sadhana. It happens in all religious practices. You can see that. It is that, okay, there is the worship. And in India there was a big Durga Puja recently. Now the puja is there. In the name of puja, there is a lot of very delicious food gets prepared. In many those organizations, they are just meant for this puja. They are called Durga Puja committees. So it was told to hold the meeting for that committee of 1 hour discussion. 55 minutes just goes in arrangements about the food. Lot of hot debates go on in that. This food should be there. No, this has to be there. This has to be there. This has to be there. Oh no, this costs a lot. Well, what does it matter? So it is, lot of fight goes on about what? Food. The remaining 5 minutes are enough for puja, how the puja should be done and all that. Who cares? So it is like that. The items of enjoyment, they take precedence. In all the worship places, you see here the food. That okay, there is, you go to a synagogue or a temple, a church of any this thing, people are, if there is no food, then the number of people attending it becomes very low. Not too many people come. Some enjoyment has to be provided for them. But that should not become the main prominent thing. So we shall discuss that next Tuesday and proceed further as to the next other great scholar who would be testifying Sri Ramakrishna's personality as that of incarnation of God. So and we shall meditate on this for 30 seconds, and in case then if you have question, please feel free to ask. Yes, please, any question? Okay, here there are two hands. Is there anybody there?
No question here yet.
No
Swamiji.
question there. Yeah. So, okay, Paul, what question do you have?
Well, I just want to say that I'm glad you brought this up today because I've seen this happen so much. It's very prominent in the world, prevalent. That people forget what they're doing and they're concentrating on the outer form of what they're doing.
Yeah, you are right there. That is so much because there is not much impetus on. This is where the leadership of the religious organizations falter, because gradually they are also human beings. So what they do, they have to run the church or the synagogue or the temple, whatever, whether they are Hindus or Buddhists or Jewish or Christians, whatever it may be. The church, running of the church requires money, and the more money, the better it is. And then, unless rich people come, more people come, where to get money and how to get them? Okay, come and meditate and then get out. They won't come. So, what is to be done then? Okay, yes, you come for this worship, and then there will be the food arrangements after that. A delicious food will be provided. There will be music and dance and all that. Then the person comes, just attends 2 minutes of worship, if at all, and then goes there. We used to get some people here also, that when there was soup supper, and now because of the pandemic we have stopped that, but then some people would be noticed. Have you noticed, Naomi? Some would be coming just about 5 minutes to 6, entering, because they are not interested in the sermon. They are interested in food and just meeting people around. So now such people are plenty. If they are more, then they pour money also. If you don't have these things, then no money will come. So the church leaders, they go for that. They pander the political authorities and the rich people, and thus the whole philosophy is thrown into garbage. It is then, we shall be discussing that topic next Sunday. Let us fix the world. All the social things, it becomes then the God is forgotten, and that happens. One of my Christian friends, an evangelical, he used to be an evangelical pastor here in Massachusetts, and then he gave it up. He used to come here regularly. We used to have lot of Vedanta discussions, and recently he had come previously, even afterwards, to talk to me about certain important matters about the faith. Then we had a phone meeting. These days you cannot go and meet. So, and then his problem is this, that the churches, they have forgotten the main objective and just are deviating in this way. But it is not just churches. All religious organization, this tendency is always seen. So therefore, the place of following religion, yes, there is some part where you will have some relaxation, some enjoyment, but that should never be a prominent or predominant aspect there. And with the help of that, you should be able to move forward. That is the, yeah, you are very correct there, yes. Yes, Abhijit?
Like the Vedic rituals were supposed to be bearing fruits, as a legitimate means for legitimate enjoyment.
Yeah.
Why did the practice not take place even now? Why is it disappeared?
It disappeared because to maintain this distinction became gradually difficult in the later times. In one time, that is the what is called the change that happens in the times when the society was of a different type. It is, yes, people would understand the distinction, and there were therefore pretty strict rules about leading a life of householder. There would be so many disciplinary compulsions put on that householder, and that would gradually that the principle of renunciation was kind of inbuilt in that society. This enjoyment was enjoined, but was connected with all those four types of ashramas, and thus you have this stage of life, enjoy, but these will be the duties. You will have this stage where you will be given all these enjoyments, but again you are bound to these duties. These four ashramas, they were prescribed too. What happened is this four ashramas, they disappeared in the course of time. So therefore those practices now are no more useful, or one is able to practice as was prescribed. It is now therefore the things have to be done differently.
Hard to believe, I don't know if that's the right word, like phrase, but that certain rituals of pouring oblation in fire will bring certain results.
Well, that was a symbolic something. Main thing was the discipline. It is, yes, it can. It is. It is the matter, the power of the word, power of the mantra is a very important thing. If that power is there, because everything is, the word. If there is power behind the word, then it manifests. There is the story that is told by one of my great teachers. Ramananda Saraswati, that this is a very commonly told story, that there was the debate in a king's court between a Buddhist scholar and a Vedic this practitioner, Pandit. Now the two were there. It was decided that the one who wins will be given lot of honor, the one who is lost will be just kicked out from the kingdom. So they both came, and then the question was very simple. The king had kept a poisonous snake in a basket, and then the people have to tell, the two have to tell what is there. Now the Buddhist scholar, by reasoning and by meditating, the power of meditation, he could see the snake. And he told, before this other could utter, there is this poisonous cobra in that basket. And this then Vedic scholar was asked, he also through meditation and all could see that snake. But if he tells the same thing, where is the difference? Where is the superiority? So he said, there is the beautiful flower garland there. And the king smiled, said, flower garland? Now we will put that garland round your neck. Let's see. But when it was opened, there was the flower garland there. Why? The words are so powerful. That is called Shabda Brahma. If the word is uttered, that which corresponds to that word comes up. So that is the power of mantra. It is so that is how that used to happen. Now our faith is not there, so it will not happen. It is that has to be that power has to be there. There are instances like that when the words are uttered with power behind it, then the things take place. Otherwise, they don't take place. Like Swami Vivekananda saw this Belur Math coming up here, and then it came up. He told how it will be and so forth. At that time, it was unbelievable. But in course of time, it comes up because there is the power to that word. So when there is that power to the word, then the word manifests at gross level. That is how those rituals could help to get those things. But then if you don't have that meditative capacity, if you don't keep up that practice, then naturally the words don't have any power. Okay then, let us conclude with the closing prayers. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.